G-O-D-E-L. We translate it God. It's 2 letters. When we add those letters together, we get a value of 31. So I'm looking in chapter 31 for this English word. When you get to Genesis 31, it's apparent, very obvious, that the word is in the chapter. My wife has underlined them to help you find them in a hurry, because we're going to pick up the pace here, and it's going to get faster and faster and deeper and deeper. Now, the word God does appear in Genesis 31. Do you know what this proves? This proves absolutely nothing. Why? Because the word God can be found all throughout the Bible. So we haven't proved a thing. But let's look at some more examples. Here's the word that the English word offend comes from. Notice it has a value of 40. So I'm looking in Genesis 40, the 40th chapter, for this word offend. We shouldn't have to read it, because you should be well read in the Bible and remember the chapter about the butler and the baker offending the king. The whole chapter is written around this word. So let's get just a little more complex. Here's the simple word all. It has a numerical value of 50. I'm going to go to Genesis 50, and I'm looking for this English word all. But wait a minute, I found another word, and it also had a value of 50. This is the word for mourn in Hebrew, and when I totaled it up, I also came to that number 50. So I'm looking in Genesis 50, and I'm looking for 2 English words, the word all and the word mourn. When you go to Genesis 50, Jacob has just passed away, and you'll notice the words underlined. They're not only mourning, but everyone is mourning. They all mourned. Even the Egyptians mourned for the death of Jacob. Why are these 2 words in this chapter? Is it a coincidence? I tend to think so. Let's look at the word for rod. Since it has a value of 54, and we have to go to the 54th chapter. Genesis only has 50 chapters, so I have to go to Exodus 4 to go to the 54th chapter. I'm looking for this English word, and sure enough, it's not only there, it is the subject matter of the chapter. You've read this? Yes. I mean, Moses says, I can't go down there. They won't believe me. The Lord says, what is that in your hand? And you know the story. If you haven't read it, maybe you've seen the movie. Charlton Heston, Yul Brynner, they throw the rod down, turns into a snake, and vice versa. The whole chapter is written around this word, rod. Now, remember, in Genesis 31, we were looking for the word God. You might recognize this word if you've been going to church or studying for some time. This Hebrew word is translated to the word Lord. It has a numerical value of 65. I'm simply going to the 65th chapter looking for the English word Lord. The 65th chapter is Exodus 15. My question after viewing the chapter is, why doesn't it say God, God, God when we get to Exodus 15? That's what it said in Exodus 31. But this time it says Lord, Lord, Lord. I hope you understand the incredible supernatural design that we're talking about tonight. Once it hits you, once the impact hits you, you will realize not only was God matching up numbers, He's actually writing history. And the right people are at the right place at the right time, and the scribe is transcribing the chapter, not even realizing the movement of the Holy Ghost on him. Here's the word understanding. It has a numerical value of 67. I'm going to go to Exodus 17 looking for this word. After giving you a half a dozen examples, I would like to see the hands of the people who believe that we will find the word understanding in Exodus chapter 17. May I just simply see your hand if you think we're going to find this word after a half a dozen examples. It's not in there. You can't find the word in this chapter. So what do? We can do like the scholars want. We can call for a trash can and just get rid of all this research. We can dump it all, because all the left-brain professors would quit right here. But let's look closely in Exodus chapter 17. The word is understanding. It has a value of 67. I'm looking for the word understanding in Exodus 17. Please notice something very strange. Both words are there. They're just merely separated. Is this a coincidence? Did I make all this up so Stan would call me for a Prophecy Club speaker? Am I trying to get rich? What's the purpose in all this? Now let's take note. Here's a simple English word. It's the word make. Notice it has a value of 76. That will take us to Exodus 26. My question to the critic and the scoffer and the skeptic, how many times can you take a simple word and put it in a chapter? Or is it just some gigantic quantum coincidence? Here's a little more complex word. Here's the word congregation. It equals 79. I'm going to Exodus 29. I'm looking for the English word congregation. It's not only there. The chapter is written around this word. The narrative is formed around the word congregation. This time we have a simple Hebrew word that can be translated into two English words, priest office. The value's 80, so I'm looking in Exodus 30. I'm simply looking for two English words, and notice both words are there, priest office. How many examples will I have to present before it dawns on you this cannot be a coincidence? We're dealing with statistics. I utilized this example in my first lecture. I simply gave 7 examples. Don't tell Stan, but the first tough place I went to was Boston. My friend Alex Cuppett warned me. He said, when you go to Boston and you begin to speak, they will simply stare at you. And when you're finished, they will still be staring at you. So I ran out and picked up another 100 transparencies. My buddy Al was running 90. I tried to run 300 transparencies. And when I heard how tough they were in Boston, I picked up another 100 from Office Max. And through the evening, people began to thaw out. Their resistance began to give in because of the number of examples. When I got down to the closing part, the high voltage is always in the last 15 minutes. If you slip out, you'll have to ask someone else what transpired here tonight. I noticed one woman and her son on the back row, and they were the only ones not coming around. I am certain, that they hadn't smiled in 15 or 20 years. So when I got to this example, I said, this is for you hardheads on the back row, and I noticed their eyes were flashing. They were sitting on the back row. I said, this is just for you. We have 2 English words from 2 Hebrew letters. The vowel is simply added for pronunciation. The translation is pure gold. The value 87 will take us to Exodus 37. Notice the number of times the 2 words pure gold appear. And in case you have a hard heart or a weak mind, at least read the rest of the chapter before you make up your mind. Now, we're looking for the word people. And we're looking in Leviticus 20 because it has a value of 110. This time, notice something else extraordinary. Not only notice the word people, but notice the English translated word am. Because when you go to Leviticus 20, not only is the chapter written around the word people, but 3 times or 4 you will find the expression am or I am, and the word people comes from those 2 letters. The word children will take us to Numbers 13 because of its value of 130. So when you go to Numbers 13, I simply ask you, how many times will it have to appear to prove to you that this is just not some ordinary book? And even the computers of the world can't match the codes that are hidden in this book. Here we have a very powerful word. It's the word covert. It has a value of 130. Numbers 13 is the 130th chapter in the Bible. But wait a minute, I found another word. It's the word sight. Again, it equals 130. I'm looking in Numbers 13. May I see your hands? How many people in this room by now would raise their hands believing we will find the word covert in Numbers chapter 13? May I see your hands? The word isn't in there. You can't find the word covert in Numbers 13. So what's the matter with this code? Maybe I'm just using subliminal mind control on you. Maybe it's the power of suggestion, 3, 2, 1. And maybe you just might catch some of the things hidden in my speech if you'll buy at the book table later. So I'm asking you, what do? We can't find the word covert. The second word is sight. Let's look in Numbers 13. Let's see what the subject matter is and see if it will meet your approval with the word covert a long time before the alphabet soup created their agencies. Notice at the bottom, twice the word sight appears, and their conjugations thereof and synonyms. Here we have two English words, take up. That will take me to Numbers 24, but the word take up is not there. Will this conjugation suffice for your skeptical mind? This is about Balaam. I took Balaam's name, I added it up. I wanted to see some insight. See what his name would tally up to. Balaam's name equaled 142. That's the next chapter. And the next chapter is about Balaam's prophecy. I wonder if God had Balaam numbered. I wonder if he has people numbered. Here's the word for sheep. If you're the sheep, you should be interested in Bible prophecy. It has a numerical value of 145. That will take me to Numbers 28. Stick your hand up if you believe we will find the word sheep in Numbers 28. Why are you afraid to put up your hands? Okay, we cannot find the word sheep in this chapter. It is not in there. You know how far the professor would go with his simple left-brain logic trying to deal with this supernatural book? Well, wait a second. It doesn't fit the norms. Let me call some of the scholars. Let me call some of the most educated men in the country to solve this problem. Instead of letting the Bible teach them, they go in to prove their private, personal opinions. The word sheep does not appear in Numbers 28, but read closely and see why they have the same numerical value, this chapter, and the Hebrew word for sheep. And yes, a ram is a sheep. I'm surprised how many people call it a goat. Now, dust off the filing cabinet. It's time to remember 3 different word studies before we look in the chapter. Here's the terms cast down or throw down. They will take me to Deuteronomy chapter 7. File that in your memory banks, and then get this word, the word image. Image will also take you to Deuteronomy 7 because they have the same numerical value. Again, for the 3rd time, here's the word silver. That will also take us to Deuteronomy chapter 7. We had the term cast down, throw down, images, and silver. If you'll notice in Deuteronomy chapter 7, that is the subject matter. You'll find all 3 terms with just a quick glance. We have to hurry. We're moving too slow. All this is on a junior high level. You ready? Before I'm finished, someone will call me a numerologist. Maybe they'll even call me a soothsayer. But if they do, at least I have the number correct. This is the Hebrew word for soothsayer. It has a numerical value of 200. This will take us to Joshua 13. And what is Balaam called in Joshua chapter 13? Verbatim, an exact match. It's the word soothsayer. Here's the word slayer. It has a numerical value of 208. That will take us to Joshua chapter 21. I'm simply looking for the word slayer in Joshua 21. Notice as the numbers get higher, I'm not only moving up through the chapters. Yes, I'm taking select examples to save time, unless you want me to stay here all week or all month. We could go through every chapter and study it if we had time. I'm using enough select examples to prove to you, no matter where we're headed, this code is still working. Slayer is taking us up into Joshua 21. When you look in Joshua 21, it's apparent. It's obvious. The word is there. Now, a lot of preachers, a lot of Christians believe that God only has 3 words, and they are the same: grace, grace, grace. My Bible reads in the New Testament that our God is a consuming fire, even in the New Testament. Do you think he ever gets angry? Here we have the term be hot. It will take us to Judges chapter 2. But wait a second. Here's another word with the value of 213, matching it to the 213th chapter, which is Judges chapter 2. We're looking for be hot or drive. When you get to Judges chapter 2, twice it says, and the anger of the Lord was hot. And again, twice you will find the word drive. On this particular word study, you will find something else extraordinary. I'm looking for the English word might, but please pay close attention to the English translation of this Hebrew word. Notice how this word is spelled, because when we look for might in Judges chapter 5, if you'll look closely, you'll find something else of similarity. Notice the prophetess's name. It's very close. You say, well, you just may be stretching it. I might just be stretching it just to be here on the lecture circuit. But the word Deborah equals 217, and that's the next chapter. Notice again, 2 simple English words translated from one Hebrew word, him or man, will take us to Judges 16. I would like to reiterate, how many times in a chapter can you find a simple word? Here's the term valiant one. That will take us to Judges chapter 21. Notice sometimes it's a conjugation thereof, but we're dealing with the theme and the exactness of the theme every time. So Judges chapter 21 will prove that the word valiant one or valiant should be there. In the closing days before I had to go on this lecture circuit, I had my wife in maximum overdrive. I was doing the research, trying to find examples, running all the way up through the Old Testament. And so as soon as I would break one, I'd run up, ask her on the computer, please, quickly, type this up, do a transparency. So she was watching it daily, typing about 14 hours a day. And when she came to this example, she took a break. She came down to talk to me on the floor below and said, this one is very, very powerful. It says to smite with the scab, or to smite with a disease. Notice it had a numerical value of 388 from just simply adding Hebrew letters together. So I went to 2 Chronicles chapter 21, and it's one of the most powerful stories in the Old Testament, and it is my favorite Old Testament character, and it is Elijah. The king had done wrong. He had turned Israel back to whoring after other gods, and so Elijah just simply writes him a letter. And when Elijah writes him a letter, he says, you haven't done this, and you have done that, and you've gone a whoring after these other gods, just like the house of Ahab. You haven't followed in the ways of Jehoshaphat and Asa. He said, not only that, you slew all your brethren. He obtained the kingdom, becoming king, by killing all his near relatives so they couldn't inherit the throne. So what does Elijah say? He says that the Lord is about to, and there's that powerful word, it's the word smite. Smite, the Lord will smite thy people, thy children, thy goods. And when you read a little further, he says he's going to smite you with a sickness by disease. And again in verse 18, he says it will be an incurable disease. He said your bowels will rot day by day until they fall out. And that's exactly what happened. The word was smite with the scab, or smite with disease.